All right, let's trace a story. It's a single, powerful narrative that starts in a cave in the Arabian desert and, believe it or not, ends up on the streets of modern-day revolutions.
So here's the big question, right? How does a story from the 7th century, a story about faith, family, and sacrifice, end up toppling a government in the 20th century? It sounds kind of impossible, but that's what we're going to unpack.
To get to the bottom of this, we've got to look at two lives, a grandfather and his grandson, separated by decades, but whose stories are completely intertwined. We're going to connect the dots between the Prophet Muhammad and the stand his grandson Hussein took, a stand that turned his grandfather's principles into a cause worth dying for.
Okay, so to really get the revolution, we have to go back to the very beginning, to the revelation. Let's set the scene. We're in 7th century Arabia, and honestly, it's a world crying out for change.
They called this time Jahiliyyah, which means the age of ignorance, and it was exactly what it sounds like. We're talking about total social and moral chaos. You had endless blood feuds between tribes, injustice was just normal. And in a really dark turn, some would even bury their newborn daughters alive. Just imagine. That's the world the Prophet Muhammad was born into.
His life started with just so much loss. His father passed before he was even born, then his mother when he was only 6. 2 years later, his grandfather, who was his main caregiver, was gone too. But here's the thing, all that hardship didn't break him. In fact, it might have forged his character. By the time he was 25, way before any of the prophecies started, everyone in Mecca knew him by a nickname, Al-Amin. It means the trustworthy.
And the sources say that with each loss, as every human support system was taken away, a message started to form deep inside him. I am your only support. It's this idea that he had to rely completely on the divine. And that reliance, that resilience, well, he was going to need every ounce of it for what was coming next.
All right, fast forward a few decades. The prophet has passed away, but the principles he laid down, all about justice, integrity, compassion, they're about to face their biggest challenge yet.
And this is where the conflict really comes into focus. It's a total clash of ideals. On one side, you have everything Muhammad stood for: justice, trustworthiness, caring for the poor. And on the other side, you've got this new ruler, Yazid. The sources paint him as the exact opposite, a corrupt tyrant who grabbed power and lived a life of immorality.
So here is the moment it all comes to a head. Yazid needs legitimacy, right? So he demands that Hussein, the prophet's own grandson, pledge allegiance to him, give him that bay'ah. But for Hussein, that's unthinkable. It would mean signing off on everything his grandfather fought against. So he says no. And that one word, that single act of refusal, lights a fuse on a tragedy that is going to reverberate for centuries.
So Hussein, with just a small group of his family and friends, starts a journey, but they never make it to their destination. They're intercepted and forced onto the dry, open plains of Karbala. And this is where the confrontation is going to happen. But you gotta understand, this was never going to be a battle for power. It was a battle for principle.
And when I say it wasn't a fair fight, I mean, look at these numbers. It's an absolute David versus Goliath situation. Hussein has 72 people with him, and that includes women and children. On the other side, Yazid's army of 30,000. There's just no way they could win. This wasn't about victory. It was about making a final, ultimate stand.
And here's the most critical part. Hussein knew it. He knew exactly how this would end. According to the accounts, he had a dream where his grandfather came to him and said, "Allah wants to see you martyred." So he wasn't walking into a trap. He was walking towards his destiny, fully aware that he was about to turn a physical defeat into an everlasting spiritual victory. What happened next, on that day known as Ashura, is just heartbreaking. First, they cut them off from the water. For days, in the burning desert heat, Hussein's family, including the little kids, had nothing to drink. Then the attack began. One by one, his 72 companions fought and fell. Then his family members, even his 6-month-old son, were killed. In the end, it was just Hussein, fighting alone against thousands, until he too was killed.
But here's the twist. The story doesn't end there on the sands of Karbala. No way. In a lot of ways, that's where the real story begins. Hussein's death wasn't an end. It was a seed that grew into this incredibly powerful symbol of standing up to tyranny, a symbol that would just keep growing for centuries to come.
And that whole idea gets captured perfectly in this one slogan: every day is Ashura, and every land is Karbala. What does that mean? It means the fight isn't over.
The battle between right and wrong, between justice and tyranny, the spirit of Hussein versus the spirit of Yazid, that's not something that just happened once, way back when. It's happening right now. It's a timeless struggle everywhere.
And you can literally see this echoed through modern history. Think about it. 1979, the Iranian Revolution. The leaders framed the Shah as a modern-day Yazid, and it worked. It fired people up. We've seen it in Bahrain, in Iraq, even in places like Nigeria and Pakistan. Protesters still raise banners with Hussein's name on them. His story has become this go-to inspiration for anyone fighting for justice.
So, let's pull all these threads together. What is it about this one particular story that gives it so much power, even today?
Well, it's almost like the story of Karbala became a blueprint for revolution. It proves that a moral stand can echo way louder than a military victory ever could. It's this timeless tale of the few, the principled, standing up to the corrupt majority, and that idea as a universal motivator. The story itself becomes the weapon. It gives people the words, the symbols, the courage to fight their own battles centuries later.
And that brings us right back to where we started. That story of Hussein, built on the foundation his grandfather laid down, didn't end in the desert in 680 AD. It transformed into this epic narrative about sacrificing everything for what's right. A story so powerful, people today are still willing to live and die by its example. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. What is it that gives any story that kind of power? The power to inspire sacrifice centuries after it's over?